Yep, Justin Knopper here.
Okay, just hang loose, Justin. We're waiting for everyone to call in, and we'll get started right at 11, we hope.
Okay.
No, there's absolutely nothing. It's just a matter of moving some grades around. Right. Well, gerrymandering. Yeah.
Rain hadn't affected Jenny, has it?
Jeez. Should have been done by now. Trying to do for the city of Madison, they're going to redo you ever been down during the got this judges platform that they want to redo that, and then they're going to put in like some built-in, kind of reminds me of the serpentine wall downtown, so they'll actually have kind of some staged little flat spots that people just have a little picnic and watch the race, and just trying to figure out
He gets the other end.
That's not thermometer, man, is it? Thermometer? Classic. Wow.
Would you expect any less?
I love it.
Would you expect any less?
Awesome. Do you say when you put that mask on, I'm not a doctor, but I'll take a look?
I usually say it will only hurt for a little while.
Thankfully, this won't hurt me at all.
Ready? Yes, sir. Appreciate that. You're good. Alcohol swab.
I'm running a little cold today.
Alcohol swab. Don't worry. I tell them this is going to come back
Does it have words?
Yeah.
98.1. Does it have words? I know what it would say.
We on live?
Yeah.
Yep.
Yeah.
You can tell us later.
Thank you, thermometer man.
Yeah, appreciate it.
Okay, folks, we're going to go ahead and open up this May BZA hearing. And to the members, since we're doing this virtual, I will run the meeting. We'll go ahead and start with roll call. Connie Myers.
Here.
Scott McLean.
Here.
Bobby Mills.
Here.
Brett Von Durant is absent. Justin Knopper.
Yes, sir. I'm here via phone.
And Zach Anderson.
Present.
Okay, and myself. So we'll go ahead then and ask if everyone's had a chance to review the minutes from our last meeting. If so, do we have a motion to accept?
I motion to accept.
I'll second it.
Okay, we have a motion and a second. We're going to go ahead and do roll call votes on all of these since we're not here in person. So, Connie Myers.
Yes.
Scott McLean.
Yes.
Bobby Mills.
Yes.
Justin Knoppert.
Yes.
Okay, and Brett is absent, so that does pass. We have accepted the minutes from our last meeting. The only staff report that I have is that we will have no meeting in the month of June. So, guys, hopefully the next time we'll go back to the good old days and have everyone here in person, but no meeting in June. At this time, I would like to open new business for McCord Investment Properties. They are requesting some sign variances and a variance for the back portion of their lot to be gravel instead of hard surface pavement. Gentlemen, would you like to approach the podium and go over your request?
I am Eric Lang of Land Consultants here in Lawrenceburg, Indiana. We are the design professionals on this project. For those of you that weren't at the commissioners meeting, or the Planning Commission meeting, my apologies. Brief rundown, this is a project for commercial development of the old Ponderosa site, as I like to call it. We're proposing a 90 by 150 building to be placed on fill to get the site up out of the floodplain. There will be parking primarily for customers and a few staff in the front of the building, and parking for equipment and other staff in the rear of the building. We access US 50 via a private road known as Surelight Drive. That's adjacent to the Papa John's Pizza and the Surelight property in the rear. The signage out front and in the rear, the gravel area as opposed to being hard surface. I'll let Kevin talk about the signage part specifically, but as far as the gravel area and what we're going to do back there, we have sufficient parking and sufficient maneuvering space for the Sinorama property to operate from the standpoint of having parking for the boom trucks and different vehicles that he uses for business, as well as for the employees that work there. The gravel area that he is requesting is largely for temporary outdoor storage or laydown of sign material and just trailers every once in a while. It's not really a permanent storage space for anything. It's just a temporary storage space for materials and odd equipment that he may need to store on site for a day or two as he's moving from job to job. The nature of that storage is entirely temporary, and it's entirely variable. It's not meant to store any one thing for any long period of time. So as a result of that, we're requesting that be gravel back there and not concrete. As far as the signage, I'll let Kevin take over with that. Are there any questions related to the site variance items for me while I'm standing here?
Okay, does the board have any questions pertaining to the hard surface pavement?
No, no.
Okay, I can come back up.
Justin Knopper.
Go ahead.
Yeah, I was just curious on the back area where it's going to be gravel, if it's going to be contained by fencing or anything as far as just to contain some of the aesthetics of it into the property.
At this time, there's no reason or there's no thought that we are going to screen that. You're behind the building. You're substantially behind Papa John's Pizza, and depending on which way you would be looking at it from US 50 or out in the more public area, you would have a really hard time seeing that because it's going to be down at a lower elevation than the building and then the majority of the parking. So just the elevation of the building and the elevation of the pad that it sits on is going to provide screening from where 99% of the public will be. Behind this, you probably are all aware that you've got that big grassy bottomland as well as the ash ponds and some other things in the back. So it really will never be viewed by anyone from the public from the rear. It would really only be viewed from the front. And because of that fill up there by US 50, this gravel pad sits a good 6-7 foot lower than all the fill that's up at 50. So you would have to have something really big sitting back there to see it, and that's not the intent of that storage.
Okay, great. Thank you for clarifying.
Sure.
Okay, any other questions on the hard surface pavement request? If not, then Mr. McCord, would you like to get up and discuss the variance request for signage?
Thanks, everyone. This is Kevin McCord. So as far as the signage you have in your plans, you'll see a front elevation showing the Signorama sign and the Yesco sign. Our original intent was to reuse the existing signage that we have on our current space, but when we sized it and scaled it on the front of that building, they look like postage stamps. So we decided to go ahead and increase those to what we thought looked aesthetically appealing, and I think everyone would agree it doesn't look too large on the front of that building. So we're requesting a variance for the size of those two signs. The intent for the pylon sign is to reuse the existing structure for the old Ponderosa sign. We're going to add to that as far as we're going to take one pole down, leave one pole, make the footer a little larger, and then add to it our signage once we take off everything else. And on that sign, there would be a variance for the size of the sign and for the electronic display, which you'll see on your plan. The height, I think we're fine with, Mike. I think there wasn't a variance required for the height. And as you can see, we were kind of going for a more retro look and feel for the sign. We liked it, so that's what we've proposed. I think overall, we drew a square around it to get the square footage. That's why it seems probably a lot larger than it would be, but as you can see on the plan, due to the shape, it's not as big square footage wise as if it were like a big giant rectangle. So that's what we're asking as far as the signage. The building, as you see on the site plan, sits pretty far back off of US 50. So we feel that the need for the larger signs on the front is needed for that reason, and having that pylon presence out front will be needed as well, just due to the location.
Okay, and one thing I do want to add to one other item that you didn't touch on, Kevin, is that in the request is also for total signage.
Yeah, total square footage.
So
Yep.
that's
Correct.
just part of his request. I want to make sure
Absolutely.
we bring that up for the record.
Yeah, number of, the square footage for the wall signs, the square footage for the pylon sign, the reader board, and the overall square footage.
Right.
Got it.
Okay, do we have any questions on the signage portion of this from the board members?
I don't have a question, I just have a comment. I like the retro look. I think it's gonna bring something different to town.
Thank you. Thank you.
Okay, if there's no other questions, we're going to take 1 minute here to let the public call in and see if anyone's got any questions or comments from the public. There is a phone number on the screen if you're watching this, so go ahead and call at this time, please. And guys, we'll just give them a minute to see if anyone calls in. Okay, apparently we have no calls. If anyone calls in, we'll stop where we're at, let them ask their questions or make their comments. But at this time, I would like to ask the board if anyone will make a motion in a second to forward this to legal counsel for finding of fact.
I'll make that motion, Mike.
Okay, do we have a second?
Scott, I'll second it.
Okay. Now we'll do a roll call on forwarding this to legal counsel for finding of fact. Connie Meyer.
Yes.
Scott McLean.
Yes.
Bobby Mills.
Yes.
And Justin Noppert.
Yes, sir.
Okay, Mr. Anderson, would you like to do the finding of fact?
Yes, sir. The grant will not be injurious to the public health, safety, morals, and general welfare of the community because the proposed signs fit the site, will be professionally constructed and installed. The use and value of the area adjacent to the property included in the variance will not be affected in a substantially adverse manner because the site has and will continue to undergo improvements and changes that include a new building and new signage that will all benefit the area. The strict application of the terms of the zoning ordinance will result in practical difficulties in the use of the property because signs are required for maximum visibility due to the site conditions as well as for the use of the business. Any variance requested represents the smallest deviation possible because the signs and proportions of the signs are not abnormal and fit the look and scope of the entire project.
Okay, do we have a motion and a second to accept the finding of fact?
I'll make a motion.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll make a second.
Okay, now we'll do roll call to see if we accept the finding of fact. Connie Meyer.
Yes.
Scott McLean.
Yes.
Bobby Mills.
Yes.
Justin Noppert.
Yay.
Okay, we have accepted the finding of fact. At this time, Do we have a motion and a second to either grant or deny the request?
I'll move that we grant the request.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second it.
Okay, we'll go ahead and take a roll call on granting the request. Connie Meyer.
Yes.
Scott McLean.
Yes.
Bobby Mills.
Yes. Yay.
Okay, this being done, applicants, you have been granted your variance request on this. So at this time, you've got your variance. Now you've got to do your final record submittal and pay your fees to get your permit for everything. One other question, and I know you're getting close on your fill. But are you still planning on doing a low mar on this to get it removed from the floodplain? Okay, so just understand, don't forget to do that. And Eric, I'll also need at the end of this a surveyor's elevation certificate also. So, all right, well, congratulations, guys. Good luck with your project.
All right, thank you. Thanks, everyone.
Okay, we have no old business at this time, so I'd like to ask for a motion and a second to adjourn.
I'll motion we adjourn.
Okay, do we have a second?
I'll second it.
All right, all in favor?
Aye.
Yay.
We will consider this meeting adjourned. Thank you, guys, and have a good day.
Yeah, you guys too. Thank you.
Thank you.
Zach, do I owe you a call for something in Rising Sun? You had called, I was out of town.
Yeah, I was just really confused. I'm presuming that you did a consolidation survey out there recently on some properties that were